So thanks once again for joining us for another instalment of our webinar series at Rework, this time collaborating with the SLK Group, focused on building an enterprise data platform. The webinar this evening will aid in the discovery of leveraging big data to build an enterprise data platform without traditionally structured warehouses. This evening we'll have a slightly different format to our previous webinars, as both speakers will be presenting together and then facing questions at the end. Before introducing our speakers this evening, I just want to remind you that you could submit questions during the talks using the Q&A section button at the bottom, and I'll then pose these questions to our speakers at the end. If you run into any technical difficulties at all, you can email my colleague John, and that's on john@rework.co. And if you have any other questions that aren't answered during this, please feel free to connect with our speakers on LinkedIn, and also to pose questions in the group that you'll all have been invited to before the webinar. Without further ado, I want to introduce our speakers. Presenting this evening, we have Nagesh, Chief Data Officer and Head of Digital Service Line, and Srikanth Maya, Head of Data and Digital Service Delivery at SLK. Nagesh has 21 years of experience in IT and is currently working on harnessing varied and disconnected data through convergence of emerging technologies, including big data, data science, Internet of Things, and more. His fellow presenter and colleague, Srikanth, also has extensive experience in bringing together teams of multidisciplinary data experts and data scientists, along with domain specialists, to deliver business value at scale. So without further ado, I want to hand over to our speakers, if you both want to share your screen.
Thanks, Luke. Hi, this is Nagesh here. I head the data and digital service at SLK, around 21 years into this industry. Again, we welcome you all to this webinar. Like, you will have a separate Q&A sessions. Keep asking the questions, and we'll cover it in the last 15 minutes. And again, 21 years we have been working in this field, very specifically into the data area, and we have been trying to bring a lot of newer things out by bringing a lot of these systems together, so that we can build it as a powerful system ever, so that we can bring all these capabilities into one system. And that's been our goal. And again, some of our learnings, the best practices, what we have done across our customers, across based on our R&D research and experiences, we are trying to bring it in. I'll just quickly allow my colleague Srikanth to introduce himself.
Hi everyone, I am Srikanth Maya. So I have 21 years of experience in IT industry, and I am with the SLK software from beginning. So almost 20 years with SLK. So I started my journey with the Oracle ATAG. So I don't know how many of you remember, and I'm very passionate about data and data related work. So as you can imagine, in SLK, in my 20 years career, so I have played various roles at SLK. I incubated data and digital capabilities at SLK, making our customers successful in the area of data, digital, AML, data science, etc. So I look forward to share some of our thoughts and what we have seen in the industry and in our client base with you folks today.
Yeah. Thanks, Srikanth. What we wanted to do was bring up a new concept where we are trying to build an enterprise data platform sans the traditional warehouse design, which normally what we do is we try to spend in 1 to 3 years into building a traditional warehouse, and then take that much time to utilize the warehouse itself. So what we wanted to do was just to bring out some of the newer possibilities what we are seeing. That would be one of the key takeaways. Then we also want to take you through our experience where we have brought some of this legacy data out of this traditional systems, so that we can feed it into the real-time channels like Salesforce. And also what we have done is we have then taken this data, assetized it, and looked at how we can monetize it as well, right? So how we can use this data within the enterprise and outside the enterprise to see what are the possibilities. And while doing so, there have been quite a few success stories, and we will take you through one such success stories. So these are the key takeaways from the webinar, and I will let my colleague Shrikant to starting. Go ahead, Shrikant.
So during our connects with our customers and CXO, right? So one of the topmost question we ask them is, what is going to be their number one priority for coming years, in the next 3 years or 5 years? So without fail, the answer comes up is, I want to make my organization a intelligent enterprise, right? And in fact, one of the surveys says 87% of the CXOs say that making their enterprise as intelligent enterprise in next 3 years is a top priority for them. So then immediately we ask the next question. So, okay, why 3 years? Why not now? Or why not in next 1 year? What is stopping them towards becoming a intelligent enterprise? Then again, the answer comes back typically is the challenges of dealing with the data or data problems, right? These are usual culprits you see, like there is an explosion of data. My data is stuck in legacy, so I don't know how to bring it up and make it available for newer channels. Or there are multiple hubs, multiple layered architecture, and all are in batch mode, so I'm not able to satisfy my real-time customer or real-time needs. And also in between all these, I have to balance the regulatory needs, compliance needs with the immediacy of providing this data to the end customer or end users, right? And so then we flip the question and ask, okay, what will make you an intelligent enterprise? What do you think will make your journey towards intelligent enterprise successful, right? Then the answer comes back saying, okay, so data is the next oil, or I want to use data as an asset, right? So that is a typical answer. But as a data management professional, so I like the idea of, I like the analogy of data as a water, right? Water is common, but it is essential. It can be precious, and at the same time, it can be misused. It needs to be cleansed. Pipeline needs to be built to deliver the water, similar to the data management, and different usages, right? Some people want it to be more personable. Some usages are more of industry scale usage, and you need to make the water portable with the different container, different shape and forms, etc. Right? So that's where, like, I like the analogy of data as in water. So as a data management professional, so we have to see how we can overcome these particular challenges and hand the beauty of data, and at the same time handling the challenges of the data as well. So this brings us to some of the key questions which is facing organization and which is faced by data management professional like us, right? So some of the questions are like, how can I handle the data explosion within the today's organization context, right? Or how can I make the data which are stuck in my legacy system, make it available for newer digital channel or real-time channel? Or can I build a digital core and ready for the disruption happening in my industry and my competitors are already disrupting me, etc. And am I equipped to use the data and come up with the newer business models are happening? And all this brings us to the one last question is, okay, I already invested in building a traditional enterprise level data warehouse, and why I'm not able to make use of that investment, right? And all these questions linger, but one thing there is no question about it is the organizations which has strongest capability from data to insight cycle, they achieve greater decision making capabilities. And the greater the decision making excellence, the business value they generate for their customer and for their organization is like minimum twofold or threefold, right? And we have our own examples. We have dealt with like one of the auto dealer in US we support at the time of COVID. Okay, they were not able to do on the ground, on field car appraisal system. So they had to immediately switch on to the remote appraisal system for this car. So where the users can send across the images and they have to process the image, store the image, process the image, and immediately do the car appraisal system. Similarly, one of the another customer we are supporting who are in micro lending business, right? So they saw the COVID crisis as an opportunity to extend their lending capacity, lending ability to the lesser credit worthy, lesser credit score people as well, by extending their data capabilities to look at alternative data set, to alternative to credit scoring, and come up with a newer way of doing things, and providing the instant approval for micro lending loans. Similarly, many neobanks are already challenging the traditional banks in this area. Like they were able to proactively use their data and digital capabilities and proactively go back to their customers as well. So that brings us some hope for us as well. Like there are newer way of doing things, and that will satisfy some of the needs as well as overcome these particular challenges. Okay. And what we are showing is the traditional data architecture, and this is the typical architecture. If you ask me, like around 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and but a lot of things have changed over time. The usage pattern has changed from daily batch reports to the interactive BI or self-service BI or AML capability I want to make use, but that requires huge amount of data set and unstructured data as well, etc. Right? And even the data consumption habits have changed a lot. Maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, yesterday's data would have been passed as a huge benefit. But then things have changed from yesterday's batch data to last hour's data. But even that is not enough now. So we are looking at up to the second, very realistic and real-time data to address. But what we have seen across our client base and industry as such, the traditional data architecture has failed in many such circumstances. And the consequences of that failure also has been huge, right? And typically, like the organizations think, okay, I have already invested in building enterprise level data warehouse, which they synonymously call that as a traditional data architecture. And that would have been good 5 years ago. But what we have seen across is like even the EDW implementation, which uses, let us say, the industry level frameworks like IBM Banking Data Warehouse or Teradata's SSLDM, and have failed to inspire or failed to give that benefit to the organizations. So a lot of time what we see is spending time on the data preparation itself takes around 80 to 85% of the time, and only left with only 15 to 20% of the time to do the analytics part as well. Right? So the definitely the enterprise level data warehouse has become a much higher cost center than enabling the insights as well. And this particular consequences are spilled over to the business as well. Like organization lost the business opportunity, they were not able to make use of that investment at the time of crisis like COVID, and over a period of time the EDW performance has been deteriorating, and only the compute power, the maintenance costs and overheads are increasing, together with not able to govern the data, especially the number of data sources or data explosion has happened, right? So on the one side, the traditional architectures are facing the challenges what we have highlighted previously, but at the same time, on the other side, there are newer demands on the data as well. Some of them are like, okay, I want 720-degree view of the customer. What that means is, it is not enough. I make use of the internal data, what I have about my customer. That is not going to be enough, as we learned in the case of like the micro lending scenario and many of the scenario, where the organization also have to dependent on the external data about their own customers. So that's what the both internal and external together making the 720-degree view of the customer. So that has become need of the hour. And another one is when there is a data literacy as exploding, and citizen data scientists are increasing. So everyone in the organization want access to the data. In one of our example, so all of a sudden a bank decided that all of their line of business, the non-IT folks, right? So they need to get access to their Tableau environment. So all of a sudden, 400, 500 people got access to the data, and in each one of their laptop and PCs, they had access to the bank's valuable data on their Tableau platform. Now, how you govern in that scenario as a process, and how you enable the self-service analytics, and last but not least, how we can monetize the data what you already have about your customer or about your supplier or about your product as such. And to achieve this, we also see that as a data management professional, there is a huge shifting paradigm on many of the implementation technology or implementation concepts as such, right? So what would have been called as data lake, which was good maybe 2 or 3 years ago, as shifting into data lake house and shifting into data reservoir house. And what would have been good if you are able to automate the manual processes and more process-oriented approach, and also more LOB focus in the near future. We are sure that in the future it will go beyond LOBs to the individual folks in that LOB, more personalized and self-service type of reporting or analytics, etc. So that will become the norm, is what we see. Okay, and so to address these both the challenges with the traditional data architecture, and also to satisfy the newer demands, right? So definitely there are we need to go towards a new age enterprise data platform, or we need to build a data platform which can cater to a variety of usage in a unified way. So what are some of the characteristics of say new age enterprise data platform? So it should satisfy any new or external or internal data coming into the system. It should support any new KPI or new business model which is happening because of the disruption. So we should be able to satisfy that, or we should be able to satisfy the various type of analytics as well. And more importantly, it should support the multimodal support in terms of analytics. It may be structured analytics or unstructured analytics, or even I don't know what I'm looking for, but I will figure out as I go, more like exploratory analytics as well. So we should develop a unified data layer which can cater to the variety of usages as well. So what we have seen is some of the organizations have already started this journey. Some of them have taken baby steps in terms of some are like offloading the EDW workload into the Hadoop or big data system. Some of them have replaced the enterprise data warehouse with the data lake completely. Some are moving from on-prem big data to cloud-based big data. And some of us even tried with the newer concepts, newer constructs like data hubs, regional data hubs or global data hubs, or data virtualization, or data fabric and semantic layer, etc. So various maturity curve or various type of options are available. But what we are proposing is a very radical new approach which can tie up both data and analytics in a single unified data layer. And Nagesh will walk through how that new age enterprise data looks like, and we will get into the details of what are some of the technology or tool set we are available, some of the use cases as well. So Nagesh.
Yeah, thanks, Shrikant. Thanks for laying the foundation of how the data is evolving. Earlier, there used to be a comparison between OLAP and OLTP, which is no more. Now, what we get is data, universal data, and how we can make use of this data is the biggest question now. And again, like what Shrikant was explaining, there is a continuous data sprawl, data explosion. Data is coming in GBs, TBs, and multiple sizes across. And you have text coming in, you have various kinds of videos coming in, you have your normal data which is coming in, you have IoT systems which are pushing in the data. And plus, there is both real-time streaming data, and also there is structured, unstructured data as well, right? So there is a lot of data sources pushing in the data. And again, what are the typical use cases we look at, right? So data is the foundation, like what Shrikant was telling, it's the water. We believe in three things normally: the sun, the moon, and the data, because they're consistent, they're available always. And again, towards this, what we felt is some of the use cases we can see is data-led digital transformation, which enables the complete transformation, or it can be an intelligent instant approvals, right? So in this pandemic situation, the need is the moment a customer comes in, how easily we can convert, how fast we can convert, right? There are multiple systems due to lot of mergers, acquisitions. There's a lot of old things which are lingering. Now, how we can bring all of it together with suitable data to do instant approvals? Can I look at some preventive maintenance? Like, for example, for manufacturing organization, if your systems are going down, can I predict it before and send a service personnel knocking on your door? So a lot of things which we can do, like Shrikant was mentioning earlier on the 720, customer 720, right? So look at both sides of the data to see what is it which is available for us to get something out of it, right? Now, from the data sources to realize this use case, what we felt is there's a new kind of platform which is required, which is unlike the structured of platform which we used to see very earlier, like you build various subject areas, then came the marts, then came the EDW, and a single change after 3 to 5 years or 10 years into the organization, a change would cost you at least 50 to 100 bucks to add a field onto the warehouse, or you want to bring in a change across the warehouse because it impacts multiple places. Now, how to avoid this, right? So the key question is, what are the things which will help us to avoid this? So a simple thing is, can we use self-service to bring in the data quickly instead of writing the elaborate ETL procedures we used to write earlier? Then once you bring in the data, so there are a lot of newer unique ways which I will take you through on the modeling and cataloging, the lineage part of it. There's some technologies like graph which have nicely evolved, which can be extensively used to build the metadata, lineage, catalog as well. And then once I bring the data in, how can I blend the analytics, right? So what are the kinds of analytics we see? We see interactive analytics, mostly on the data which is already present. There is real-time analytics where data is flowing through the systems like Kafka. There are a lot of real-time channels. It can be your IoT pushing in the data. So that's another kind of analytics. Then comes the spatial analytics, which is very specific, where we can see it makes more sense for almost all the organization to see where my customers are, what they are doing. If I'm a manufacturing industry, to see where I'm sourcing it from in this pandemic situation, what is the impact of the COVID now? So how I can blend in all these analytics together, right? And then as I start doing all of this, my data also has to be nicely curated so that it's available in the nice business form to the business users. So that's very important, to do a nice curation and then bring in a AI/ML layer. With the pandemic situation, there is always a need of how I can effectively improve my process. So either you want to automate your process or you want to orchestrate your process. Towards all of this, this layer would surely help. And then you have your data and compute grid with data coming in terabytes, petabytes. So we also have to see how I can enable my systems to serve this kind of large data. So again, what we believe is the storage should be different, whereas the serving guy should be different. So how we can segregate it across? And again, finally, what we believe in is you have the data all together, you have blended the analytics, can I put it up across to both external and internal users so that they can play around with it. So this would help easily bringing in new products from outside and integrating it as well, right? And as data is there, normally quality and governance are put up on the traditional systems. As we start moving across this fast-paced data world, right? So this governance has to be expanded across. So now what we are looking at is how can I do all of this without a very structured warehouse, without not much ETL transformations being written across. Like if I want to move from, for example, Informatica to Oracle, it takes its own sweet time to move, sometimes months to years. And how can I avoid all of this is what we are looking at. So this is more of a what we call a business focused architecture. And as we look at it, so what are the technologies that are available? Now, what we have tried to do is there are numerous combinations of these technologies that are available. Now, just to bring in the complexity, we have just shown various kinds of data sources. Normally, we are used to on-premise sources like Oracle's, the SQL servers of this world. But with the data sprawl, data explosion across various kinds of data coming in, you have Solar engines which are searching for the right data for the enterprise search. You have Kudu coming in where you are doing a lot of analytics on the fly. So there is a lot of newer sources coming in as well. So it's not traditional anymore. How we can, so towards this, then there is interaction and presentation, which is more of a visual representation of how can I make my data look good, right? So there's a lot of tools available. How can I give them a firm foundation to go towards that? So that's where what we believe is Spark is now the what we call the foundational layer. It has now taken over Hadoop and captured around 50% of the market. And on top of it, once we build the storage, what are the engines to be put on top of it, right? That's the big question. So Hive can be used for the so which is now Hive and Spark is probably giving performance in milliseconds, one of the fastest out there if you want to build a OLAP. Because this is the old style of working, we still want to see something structured. If you really want to build, it can be used. Or if you want to go into the Spark engine itself, which will allow doing a lot of manipulations, I can plug in AI on top of it. Or I can put in a Spatial engine to see how is it, where my customers are, what they are doing, what is it. So now to answer a lot of questions, we have specifically used it to see where can I expand my business, where the customers are there, what is it I can do to optimize my resources. We have used extensively for that. Then comes the IoT engine, right? We always believe there are various kinds of people. If you see manufacturing, it makes sense. For other organizations, they always feel like IoT is useless. But what we believe under this pandemic situation, I can personalize my experience towards the customer is well driven by IoT. So that's where we felt once all these engines are up, so various kinds of analytics, like I was telling earlier, interactive analytics, couple of tools just to highlight. There are multiple other tools, like I told, this is just one stack. And how I can do a real-time analytics, right? That's another quick question. So there are IoT streams coming in. Can I use Agent? Yeah, it's an option. Then can I use Ignite as well, right? For Kafka streams coming in. Yes, there are multiple other tools as well. Like I keep telling. And on the spatial side of it, you have the S3 packages coming in, and you also have the Apache SS coming in for it. And then, so once I have these engines, I need to pull in, right? So I can use the SQL interface of Calcite, or in real time, I can plug in the NIFI plugins onto it to see how the data is flowing through. Then on top of all of this, how can I put my AI layer, right? So using a lot of decision science, data and decision science, various models built in various technologies to be put up, and all of this towards predictive outcomes, data sets and APIs. So what we believe is this is a newer kind of platform serving the complete evolving situation right now, covering most of the aspects what is available in terms of technology, and again using some of the very good tools like graph and all, where relationships can be very easily identified. So how is it we can go ahead to identify where the data is, what are our options, but also what is happening is like IoT is coming into the system, there is also downstream applications which are utilizing this data, right? So that also is being looked at efficiently. So that's how this architecture supports across the various options and move it with containerization. So this is how the current enterprise data platform looks like, considering all the aspects which we were discussing earlier, negating the old style issues of structured database, and we can quickly bring this up in 3 to 6 months. That's what we believe in, not the 2 to 3 years which it used to take earlier, because now business is impatient. They want the change overnight, so they don't have time. So what is it we can do to quickly bring them up to speed, right? So these are the questions. And then there are a lot of questions on what are the typical AI/ML use cases once you set it up. So again, there are 3 kinds of learning: supervised, where system supervises the learning. Again, various kinds of algorithms used on regression, like process optimization, predictive maintenance, right? And on the classification side, how can I retain the customer? How can I detect if any fraud is happening? And on the unsupervised learning, where system continues to learn by itself, how is the customer market and product going on? What is the delinquency opportunities? Then in deep learning, data is coming in, images, speech, everything. Can I do some sentiment analysis? Can I look at a lot of other options based on the data, what is available, based on the use case we are putting in? These are some typical use cases we see, right? And then the other important thing is there's a lot of legacy systems. Now, if I'm not able to get the data out from the legacy systems to this real-time system, it doesn't make sense to keep the data out there. And this is the major constraint faced by a lot of institutions who have been up and running for quite a few years, right? So this is a new architecture where you can pull in through change data capture the data, incremental data, the data which is coming in from the core systems into an intelligent data lake, right? A Spark-based data lake where you can dump it in, and then we can use these layers and use the standards like BIAN, IFX, FDX for banking to enable and standardize these APIs and then publish it outside. So then this will become my core for the digital systems. Normally they tell what is your digital core, right? That's a question continuously being asked. So this what we always believed is data is the foundation for digital transformation, and this would enable that, right? Now, again, what are the advantages? There is a lot of advantages over it. What we believe in is it is flexible, it's quite fast in milliseconds. You can play around with the data, exploratory analytics. The catalog is business understandable, semantics, following some of the standards like FIBO. And then what you can also do is, how can I integrate my external and internal data? And also this is future ready because it covers IoT, it covers spatial analytics, it covers interactive analytics, it covers real-time analytics, all these analytics at one place, right? So that's the advantage of this platform. Now, again, using this platform, how will it help a CIO, right? How will it help a CIO realize this data strategy? So it's more in terms of how can I think in real time in this continuously evolving world. So APIs are a quick way to integrate any new application into the system, quicker processing, straight through processing and all that, right? Second thing is, how can I limit usage of my legacy? That's the biggest question, because I don't want to keep spending the same amount here or more on maintaining the legacy system. So we are avoiding that as well. Then what else we can do? Can I enable this APIs as a platform? So this is like I'm enabling my organization towards the external world. For example, if you take a bank, a retail bank, a banking would have around 180 to 200 functions. Can I push up 180 to 200 APIs out to the outside world? That's a possibility. That would enable the easy integration across. And then what is it once I give it? So what are the options for the business users? Can they use self-service? Yeah, business will love to do it. They would love to do it themselves. So these are the various strategies which the CIOs can realize using such kind of architecture. And again, the question which keeps coming to the mind is to a chief data officer is what should be my data organization, how it should look like, right? So it's not like the traditional way where 80% ETL developers and some 10 to 20% data scientists and few other people. So the team is continuously changing. It's a collaborative world where you have data organization which mans the governance and stewards to check whether the data is being properly maintained. You have support functions which are continuously working shoulder to shoulder, day in and day out. Then you have the IT organization, which through the enterprise data architect, they are bringing in the data, they are making the data look good, they are trying to put up some quick solutions on this platform. Then comes the advanced analytics part, right? Where the data is in, what is it I can do with it? Can I do interactive analytics, real-time analytics, spatial analytics, IoT analytics, lot of options, right? So these are the guys who will help us there. Now, so again, so because of all these changes, right, even our data delivery life cycle is changing. So what we believe is we don't have that 6 months to a year or 3 years to fail. It's as quickly as test it out in next 2 to 3 weeks, see what is the possibility and take it live. So that's how fast it is. Once you build a platform, we should be quick up and running. Then can I put up my use cases? Can I put up my requirements and how we can move forward? So this is some new kind of life cycle which is coming in, which is enabling us to speeden up our data delivery life cycle itself. No longer are those days where we release once in 6 months, a year. The expectation is, can I see something every day, right? So we are moving towards that. Now, when we build a platform like this, so at one of our customers, this was a success story. 4x increase in digital engagement, 65% increase in digital platform adoption, 30% increase in retail business, 20x time to market, right? So these are some of the advantages, quick advantages, and we could easily turn it around in 6 months. That's what we believe. A lot of things, a new banking system, retail banking system came in, it was integrated very quickly. So the possibilities are enormous, right? So that's what I was telling. Once you build the platform, build the APIs properly, you'll take care of 80% of your downstream systems. So let's, at IT, we can focus on a lot of other things from the data area as well. We can focus on something new, the newer business models, right? So again, like what Srikanth was mentioning at our one of the largest car dealers in the US, they built, because the data was available, they started from B2C and they quickly moved into B2B so that their appraisals increased. They were able to increase their business by 40%. Now, all of this is possible if the structure is well maintained. Not the traditional structured way, the platform, right? And again, as SLK, like we believe in how data was there traditionally, kept it as a record, then we centralized it. Now it is moving towards the service, data as a service, and then as an API, so that we can expose it to the external partners, external vendors, developers outside, and how I can monetize it. So normally, traditionally, most of us were there in 1 and 2, and many of us are still there. But what we believe is, this is where the new play is. We are working on data as a service and data as an API towards a lot of our customers, and we should be happy to pitch in wherever you need support, wherever you need something from us, right? So again, so these were some of the things we wanted to cover. I think we were around 3 to 4 minutes ahead of the schedule. Luke, you would want to pick it up for the questions?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So thanks for your presentation. It's really interesting points. We've had a few questions come in, so I'll pop some of those over to you now. So one of the first questions asked was, how do you see the proportion of text versus visual data changing over time?
Sure, that's a good question. To take 2-3 years back, the images, the live feeds were almost less, are around 10%. But nowadays, because of this pandemic situation, a lot of other things, it has now increased to around 30 to 40%.
Okay, brilliant. Another asked, do the challenges change when dealing with a lot of image or video data?
Again, that's again another good question. So that's where we were looking at a platform which doesn't bother about the storage, like what Srikanth was mentioning earlier. How can I use multimodal storages, right? So there are multiple options available, and the architecture which we have presented supports that. In addition, there are other options as well which is available, which is very specific to the use cases. Are the needs, like you may use the graph-based model plus a document storage, which was not available earlier, so that we can nicely index it and put it as well. So there are a lot of newer options coming in for storage of image and videos, and also what it demands it, how can I store it? So what is the format I should store? What is the compression I need to use? And what kind of storage for easy access, right? All that is looked into. So these are some of the options. And as I was telling earlier, this is increasing time over, and we need to be obvious to this as well.
Okay. Another asked, how do you address the cost of data movement associated with multi-cloud and hybrid cloud?
Sure. Yeah, that's another great question. Normally, what we do is, traditionally the movement used to be very structured, and we used to do a lot of checks and balances as we move the data. So now what happens is, with the new way of defining these things, the enterprise data platform which we are bringing in, you can just bring in the data as is. That's where we told, like, you can start with a data lake house. That means it's managed as a house once it is brought into the house, with the standards, guidelines, everything which is preset, so that we don't have to redo it and then again move towards a reservoir where we build a proper dam to this data, right? So that we can control the outflow and we can see what are the various options that are available. Again, coming back to that question, so you are just moving it once and then incrementally for the changes. We are not looking at this data being moved, neither the transformations which we have done over the years to be moved, because you need to just bring in the data and keep a free flow on the other side, rather than bringing your entire EDW into the cloud and trying to see how I can move. That should not be an approach at all.
Okay, brilliant. Another attendee asked, how can you set up data infrastructure to operationalize ML in an enterprise with distributed data?
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's where we are telling, there are a lot of options available, like data virtualization if we don't want to move the data across, or if we have the data in traditional and other things. There are a lot of cloud environments where we are able to pull in the data. So there are two options. You can as well put the ML on-premise, or you can put the ML on the cloud. Now again, what are the key constraints you have to check? The number of hops when we are doing this, where the data is available, how can I do this with minimal hops? Now, then the next question is, okay, reduce the hops. So the data is in, what kind of VAML infrastructure I need to use? Should I keep a, so we saw one of the customers had brought 512 gig like 10 systems of 512 cluster are what I can tell, one master and 9 slaves without even knowing what to do with the server. What we suggest is keep the data storage separate. That's a separate cluster which you are maintaining, and keep the data manipulation, the AML cluster separate so that it comes up, goes down, so that we optimize the usage. And the same thing, so on the cloud, it gives further savings because the computational can expand exponentially, whereas on premise I need to wait for the procurement, whereas on the cloud I can exponentially do it and go back to what is required.
Great. Another asked, how should engagement models between business CIOs and data owners engage with enterprise data and AI?
Sure. So again, normally it's a two-way question. That's a very good question. Again, again, the first thing is who brings the use cases to the table. The IT always thinks, or the data office always thinks, okay, I have this data. Should I take the use case back to the business? And business would always think, okay, I don't know what data is available. What should I do? So we always believe in this changing world. So if IT has the control, can we take some of based on the data? Can you take back some of the use cases, prioritize with the business, get the order, and then pick it up? Or the other option is, if the business has some great use cases, see how we can. So that's how we are working with some of our customers. Great use cases. I saw a pandemic situation. I saw a new way to monetize my data, right? So then I cannot wait. So for example, I was telling one of the cases where the car dealer, we wanted to move from B2C to B2B, right? So I cannot wait for the for things to come in. Quickly see the data, what is it I can reuse and how I can take it up. So normally without a business buy-in, what we find is IT does a use case for 6 months to a year, and then go back to the business, and by the time it would have been stale, our business would feel no, it doesn't match my requirements. So we have seen that. So what we always believe is it's an agile world, work shoulder to shoulder with the business, get a buy-in, prioritize, and pick it up.
Yeah, adding on to what Nagesh is saying, right? So there are various collaborative model between chief data officer, data delivery organization embedded within IT, and even the business LOBs or businesses, right? So various collaborative models we have seen working. For example, in one of our customer place, where the CDO, Chief Data Officer Group, works along hand in hand with IT, more like a data governance council, like more of a governance center rather than a delivery center. The delivery aspects of self-servicing analytics or self-servicing reporting, right, has been enabled for the line of business or the business users. But there is a clear this one boundary or the collaboration model set where the governance is by the CDO group and the IT data delivery group. So in that way, so that is a one model, and there is also a different model where the business and CDO together form the data governance council, and even the data delivery aspects, data governance and data stewardship aspects lies with the chief officer organization. Means they are taking care of the end-to-end data governance as well as data delivery with business owners, data stewardship from the business are embedded as a part of data governance council. And last but not least, third model is more and more organizations are going towards agile model, even for data needs or data delivery needs, right? So by the definition of agile, so each Scrum team is made up of cross-functional teams from CDO group, business, product owners from the business side, as well as the IT. So that paradigm also, as we have seen working in many of our customers.
Okay, brilliant. Another asked, What are the key roles and team makeup for ML computer organization architectures?
Sure. So what we have normally seen in this case is it's a mix of big data engineers plus the data scientists, because like what earlier Srikanth was telling, some of the traditional systems, the pipeline are bringing the data in takes 80%, then modeling is 20%. So what we believe in, once we build this newer styled EDP or enterprise data platform, that should turn around to at least 20 to 80. It will not happen overnight. It takes some time as we start normalizing. So what we believe is it's a good mix of data scientists, big data engineers, the data analysts who are trying to see whether the right data is being brought in. There are stewards working with the data group to see whether the curation, the data, the way it is put up, everything is fair, fine. So that is being checked. So these are some of the new mixes coming in, and plus the business is standing together with the development. Unlike earlier case where you build ILC, they are rightly coming with us to see what are the additional possibilities that are possible. So what we always believe is like it's a new mix which is coming in. Earlier it was just get some ETL guys and do some modeling, which is completely changing nowadays with the problem. Because it's not normal bringing pipe, plumbing the data and doing something. There is always a case of data is always there. What else you can do with this data? Where the possibilities are numerous. In those cases, we need more data scientists, more what I call more of a very good data analyst who can see the various types of data and then find the possibilities of predicting an outcome, right? See now, what is then outcome? Outcome is for a particular event, what are the various actions I can do? And then if I'm able to predict and okay, if you take this route, this is the outcome. If you take this route, this is the outcome. If you're able to do that, nothing like it.
Okay. Another actually a really good question here. Someone said, do you have one key piece of advice to get started as someone who's new to ML and data platforms?
Sure. ML, AI ML is made look like a rocket science, which is not the case. What we believe is, I put up a nice article on my LinkedIn as well on what are the various kinds of AI ML, what are the possibilities with that. What we tell is, if you are mathematically adept, you like it, you need not know how the formula is calculated, because we come from days where we used to build those ML algorithms, and just for a case of one neural network algorithm, we had to build 100 classes, right? So changes, if you make a minor change, you have to build 100 Java classes, which is not the case nowadays. Nowadays, it's mostly plug and play. So what we suggest is, look at the various classifications of machine learning. There are various algorithms and where to use what. That's the basic thing which we need to understand. Understand your problem well, and then understand what are the possible algorithms, what kind of algorithms will suit. Assume assume ML was a human, how would it would have thought? Will it think like a time series or a regression, or will it look like, okay, can I classify my customers to see what are the options? Think like a human, see which algorithm suits the best, then see how will you measure the outcome of that ML, and then go back and first again, to reiterate, if you don't know the problem, no AI/ML model will help. Understand the problem first, then go to the AI/ML and start evolving with it.
Yeah. So adding on to what Nagesh was telling, so my key advice, if I have to give one key advice, is to start with, to understand AML, right? To start with the tool set, which will allow you to build your own model without getting into the nitty-gritties of statistical analysis or which algorithm you need to pick up, etc. Right? Which purely as a business person or purely as a common layman, right? So there are quite a few solutions or products are available in market. SLK also has developed one such platform, a solution. We call it as Smart Data Playground, which allow you to, if you have a data set, if you can bring in the data set, whatever is the source, maybe start from Excel file to big data or cloud-based data store, and use the smart data playground, and will allow you to build your own model without you really understanding the statistical analysis or the underlying AML model and algorithms like random forest or XGBoost. But purely from the business standpoint, it will allow you to build your own model and play around with that, look at the result, and come back and try out some more models. So that might be your first baby step towards your AML journey. Once you are comfortable with model, various models available, and how it's helping you with your data set and all, right? Then as the next step, you might getting more details into nitty-gritties of the AML algorithms and how to tweak for performance, etc. So that would be my advice. So start with a tool set which will allow you to play with your data.
Sure. Before we kind of wrap it up, I'd just like to ask both of you actually, what are you both most excited about coming up for SLK in the next 6 months to a year?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Look, I think one of the best we had till now. So, like we were telling, the pandemic has changed a lot of things, the thought process. We are looking at a lot of newer things, like how can, given a traditional database, can I just move it into a lake using all sorts of AI and ML and be ready with it, okay? Within a short frame of a week or a 2 week, where everything is up and running and it works out. So, and in addition to that, we are looking at expanding into the real-time channel. Data has increased over real-time channel, how we can enhance our governance as part of it. And also technology is changing very, very fast, right? You have spatial coming in, lot of data through IoT. In spite of all this, very simple thing which we are working on is how can I change my customer experience, make it superior, right? So whatever we do at the back, ultimately it should result in how a customer sees it and how it helps out. So we are working on some of this, a lot of newer things. We are bringing in a lot of technologies together. It can be big data, AI, ML, no-code systems, cloud, all of it together to build powerful systems more than ever. So that's been our goal at SLK, and we have been very, very blessed with that kind of environment. Like when we started our careers 20 years back, we built a warehouse when warehouse concept itself was not there. Now, and then we built some systems which could forecast the next 5 years of a Fortune 100 organization. So then we started moving across, and always we felt that we had an option to be ahead of the curve. And that's where we have been, even in these platforms, where customers are coming back and telling, I'm 3 years back, can you help us with how we can move forward in next 2 to 3 months? I don't have next 3 years to start building, moving to the cloud and all that. So it's been a very fast pace. We have been aligning a lot towards this change, and these are a few things. Shivan, you want to add something?
Yeah, sure. So what excites me the most is, say, typically the people, data engineers or even data scientists, data management professional as such, used to be termed as back-end developers, right? So you're always on the back-end side of the thing, and what is visible is UI UX. So what excites me most, especially with the recent pandemic situation, is how the data and the insight have come to the forefront, right? And how the data is coming to the its own life and helping organization and helping the individual personnel also, in terms of taking a right decision for the organization or taking a right decision for them. So that whole journey is what excites me, like how the data and the output of the data, the outcome of data has come to the forefront of it. So that excites me most.
Okay, brilliant. Good answers. Obviously some really exciting times ahead. As you say, sounds very, very busy as well. Obviously we're drawing to a close now. So I want to thank you both very much for your presentation. some really, really interesting points raised. And I also want to encourage all of the attendees to connect with you both on LinkedIn for further conversation that way, and also to go on to the event on LinkedIn as well, because I know that you guys will be answering further questions on there. But yeah, I just want to wrap it up. And was there anything else you'd like to finish with, guys?
No, I think it was a great opportunity for us to bring some of the newer thoughts which would help save a lot of efforts and money towards building the traditional system. So these are newer ways of solving a problem, and we always believe in that. Think something new, or what our CEO keeps on telling, if you don't disrupt yourself, somebody will disrupt you. Look at something newer things, newer opportunities which could solve this problem quicker. Right. Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you for your time, guys. Appreciate it, and hopefully see you all again soon. Thank you.
Sure.
Cheers. Bye-bye.